What is going on, guys? This is the host. And today's question is, did the ancient Egyptians weigh the soul? Let's get into it. If you ever watched the movie The Mummy, then you remember that in order to resurrect someone who had passed away, they needed to collect all of their organs and weigh their heart against a feather. If their heart was heavier than the feather, then they were allowed back to life. But if their heart was lighter, then they got chopped up into pieces. Well, that's not exactly how it went down. Their hearts weren't being weighed to see if they could come back to life, because the Egyptians didn't believe in bringing people back to life. They believed that once you died, that was it. Your time was up and you were moved on. So you weren't trying to come back. You were trying to get into the afterlife. So why were their hearts being weighed? Well, according to Egyptian belief, after you died, your heart would be weighed against a feather to determine whether or not you were worthy of entering the afterlife. Now, this feather wasn't just any feather. It belonged to Maat, and Maat was the goddess of truth. And so your heart had to be as light as her feather in order to pass the test. You see, the Egyptians believed that your heart was the source of your being. That's where your soul and your personality resided. It was the most important organ in your body, and it was also the most vulnerable organ in your body. And so when you died, your heart would be separated from your body, and then it would be taken to the underworld, where it would be judged by 42 gods. Now, these 42 gods were representing different aspects of the person's life. There were gods representing everything from your family to your friends to strangers. And each god would ask you questions about your life, like, did you do right by them? Did you treat them fairly? Did you treat them kindly? And if you answered yes to every single one of those questions, then your heart was pure. It was as light as a feather, and you passed the test. But if your heart was heavy, then it meant that you were guilty of sins, and then you wouldn't pass the test. And what happened next was that your heart was devoured by an animal monster named Ammit, who was always hungry for sinners' hearts. And if you were judged by the gods and found to be lacking, then you were erased from existence forever. Not only that, but your name was erased from existence forever. And this is very important, because in the Egyptian religion, your name was a part of your soul. In fact, saying someone's name was a way of invoking their soul. And so if you took a person's name and you threw it away, you took their soul and threw it away. And what's crazy is that we have evidence that the Egyptians believed that even their pharaohs had to go through this process. And this was proven in the tomb of Ramses III. Inside of his tomb, we found a record of his weighing of the heart. And it goes like this. His Majesty's heart was placed on one side of the balance, and the feather of Maat on the other side. And he found favor in the eyes of the gods, and they declared righteous whatever was in the king's heart. So even the mighty pharaohs had to go through the weighing of the heart. And the only difference between them and regular folk is that they left records of their accomplishments behind. And so they knew that they had done good things during their life. So they thought that their hearts would be light enough to pass the test, but it doesn't mean that they definitely would. Just because you think you're a good person doesn't mean that you're a good person. And even Ramses III was worried about the weighing of the heart. He made several magical amulets that were designed to help him pass the test. One of them read, "I am pure, I am pure, I am pure. O gods, accept my offering. I have not sinned against men. I have not committed violence nor done evil, neither have I stolen." So this shows us that even though he may have thought that he was a good person, he was still afraid that he wouldn't pass the test. And that's just showing us how serious the Egyptians took this whole process. So based on all of the evidence, the answer to the question is yes. The ancient Egyptians did weigh the soul. Now, there are some theories out there that say that the Egyptians didn't actually weigh the heart, that it was all symbolic, but there's no evidence to support that. I mean, the Egyptians wrote about the weighing of the heart so much that if they were actually doing something else, I'm sure they would have mentioned it somewhere, but they didn't. So it's pretty clear that the ancient Egyptians did weigh the heart, and they believed that the fate of your entire soul rested on the outcome of that test. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We've got a ton of new videos coming out all the time, and it's free, so you can watch them too. As always, thanks for watching. Stay curious.